Hello and welcome to Step It Up. My name is Shalece. I am a compulsive eater in Phoenix, Arizona. And Lulu and I are excited to share our experience in working the 12 steps as they are laid out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This meeting will be held on the second Tuesday of each month. We will cover one step per month. There will be a question and answer session at the end of each meeting. And I will add to that since the beginning of these recordings, we've actually made this a weekly meeting. We officially do move on to the next step on the second Tuesday of each month, but you can join us here each Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern on this same link. And we cover everything in between on those weeks that we're not moving on to the next step. We're discussing whatever step we're working on, and then also doing just other recordings that are useful. Today we will be discussing step 5, and I will now turn the time over to Lulu to have her share her experience with step 5.
Hi, my name is Lulu. I'm a compulsive overeater. And step 5. Okay, when I finished writing, it was just like, oh my dear Lord, my hand was all cramped up. This was back in the olden days when we used to write with a pencil, Remember those days? Now it seems like everything's done electronically. When we used to meet in person and actually hug each other and hold hands and say the Serenity Prayer, and now we do Zoom. But I'm grateful for this format that's available. So a lot of the 5th steps that I do with people now are done virtually, and we'll talk about that in upcoming recordings, because that's my experience with sponsoring step 5s, but today's presentation is about my experience with step 5. So my experience with step 5 is, my 4th step was written in a notebook. I went to my sponsor's house every Tuesday night at 7:30. It was my favorite night of the week. And I loved meeting with her, and I just loved hearing what she had to say. And she was my extension cord to God until I had a direct plug-in. So when I started doing my 5th step, she said, basically this 4th step that we have, all this writing is going to tell us all kinds of things. It's going to give us our step 6 list, which is the list of our shortcomings and being willing to kind of part with them. And it gave me the information on for my step 8 list, which was, finding willingness to make amends to people that I would owe an amends to. So, and it also told me a lot about how I do life, how I do relationships. And I didn't know that. I mean, the way that I wrote it out in piecemeal, I didn't know how it was going to come together this way. I didn't know it until it actually happened as we were working it. And the first thing she had me do was she had me do some tallying of some of the fears that I most experience. So by taking a tally, I could see which fears came up for me most of the time in relationships to other people, in relation to my resentments, which is really me resenting life situations. So as soon as something's not happening my way, you're on my list, right? So you're on my list. It shows me how I'm responding to life. There's no test in how I respond to life when everything's going my way and then the sun is shining and everything is great and I got a pile of money in my pocket and I have a nice meal under my belt. It's when you're confronted with life situations. You can call them problems. I call them life situations. So in these, I needed to I needed to write what fears came up, what kind of self-seeking behaviors come up, those things that I do to make myself feel better when I'm resenting this thing. I want to know, what am I doing? How am I reacting to life? So I got all this information, and I found out where I was kind of falling short um, in life, and it had to do with my character defects, shortcomings, wrongdoings. That's a kind of, Bill Wilson kind of calls them all three things, probably just in case one of them offends you. Like, who is he to call me a defect? You know, it's just like, oh, well, maybe you'll hear shortcoming and it feels a little bit more gentle. For me, they felt like character defects. And that willingness to have them gone was very strong. But really, like, how do you do that? So that's what step 7 is for. And then I kind of saw a lot of the things that I did to make myself feel better. Most of that stuff under the self-seeking is the way in which I hurt people. And I wanted to see, what do I do most of the time? Am I yelling at people? Am I blaming people? Am I gossiping about people? Am I judging people? Am I defending myself against people? You just go, I don't know. I wrote it down for each one, but when you bring all this information together and kind of see what your top 3 are, it's kind of quite remarkably enlightening, and that's what my sponsor did with me. And then, do you want to take 5, Shalece?
I would love to take 5. So I just am having this great desire to just give you a little pep talk right now. And this is for me. I need a pep talk today. If you're at step 1, you're right where you're meant to be. We're talking about step 5 today, and maybe this won't make sense to you. Maybe it's not where you're at, but it's okay. You're at the right place. You're in the right place. And maybe you're at step 12 and you're having a rough time. It's okay. You're exactly where you're meant to be. If you're having a tough time, then you're in the right place, because guess what? We all have a tough time sometimes, and it's just, you're in the right place. So step 5 for me was, well, I'm lucky because I have the opportunity to do a step 5 2 times. My first time that I went through it with my first sponsor, I had exactly the experience that I needed. It was I just at that time just needed someone to listen to me, and listen and go through. And I had done some work, and I spent some time and I read my step 5 to her. And that was exactly what I needed at that time. And then I had the opportunity to work later on. That was actually, I don't know. I'm in the program 6 years, and it was 3 years ago that I had the opportunity to work the steps again with another sponsor. Just because of some changes that were made in my life, I shifted and moved to another sponsor, and just felt like I needed that change. And it was exactly what I needed at that time. And I'm so grateful. I needed both of the experiences. So I think I needed the little precursor with my first sponsor so that I could be ready for the second experience that I had with step 5. And step 5 was absolutely mind-blowing for me. And it is absolutely mind-blowing for me every time I work that step. When I work it with my sponsees, when I work it with my sponsor on my step 10, because I get to work it, I have the opportunity to work it over and over and over again. But step 5 is where I take all that information, where I've taken all that information that I've put down on paper. I had no idea what was going to hit me. I had no idea when I did my step 4. I was just doing everything. All right, now do this. Okay, so I do this. All right, now do this. Okay, I do this. All right, now write this. Okay, I write this. And I'm like, okay, I did it. What now? And then step 5 was wham! The truth. Step step 5 is where where I get to take a look at where I've been looking at life through only one perspective, and it was very skewed, a very, very skewed view. And I love the fact that my sponsor had me write my list, the people closest to me at the top, and then we went from there. And down at the bottom was all of the institutions. And it turned out that for me, I've got just a minute left here. For me, about half of my resentments were an institution. And I'm really grateful that we started from the bottom up, that when we started to work through the step 5, actually we started with fears, didn't we? Did we start with fears? Anyway, whatever the case, we started, and it was basically looking at my thinking under a microscope and taking a look at the way I believed things were, and looking at them, basically turning them around, looking at them from every angle possible. And then when I could see what I needed to see, then we moved on. If there was still resentment in there, we just kept working. We kept working and digging. Okay, there must be something else that we're thinking about this part that just isn't accurate. So, okay, that's my 5. I'm going to turn it back over to Lulu, and she'll take it from here.
Hi there. That was great. Step 5 is sharing your personal inventory with another human being. And it's kind of like, well, what does that have to do with food? Like, I just want to lose weight, It has nothing to do with food, and it has everything to do with food. It's like, if I learned that I wasn't eating compulsively because I was just a pig and I was weak. I learned why that was happening, and I knew it had to do, a lot of it had to do with the way I was getting tripped up in life, and I needed to kind of medicate myself. So this is a chance for us to kind of unravel some things about how we tick. And I'm just looking at some of my notes here on my 5th step in the big book, things that the beauty of the 5th step that came to me, the information that was coming to me by reading my 5th step, things being pointed out to me. So I'm finding the truth, but like, I really didn't have a lot of practice finding the truth. So she had to help me find the truth on almost everything. And it seemed like kind of yucky, like to hear such yucky things about myself, but damn, it was important. I have written here on the first paragraph in step 5 on page 72, it says, we have admitted certain defects. And then I have written here, queen, because that's what she used to call me. She'd be like, oh, so you're the queen? Are you the queen? And she'd be like, I think you kind of think you're the queen. And I remember after going through the 5th step and unraveling things and working it and starting to feel those promises coming true when I was halfway through step 9, because I was painstaking about that phase of my development. I just remember just feeling this relief. And I remember she said to me, do you think you'd like to take the crown off now? I was like, I don't want the friggin' crown. I don't want to be the queen of anything. I don't want to be in charge. I'm not in charge of anything anyway. I don't know what I was thinking. And it was so great. So I don't have the crown anymore. I don't want it. I don't want to be in charge of anything. Another thing that was really helpful with the 5th step is that when you're reading it and you're sharing it electronically or you're sharing it verbally, it's very repetitive because it's all about different things. and it's all about different life situations, and it involves all different people, but the common denominator is me. So I'm going to see patterns in that. Okay. And it reminded me of like back, I can remember, I think I was in like middle school, and I was like disrupting a class, if you can imagine that, by talking too much. And I remember it was in science class, and I remember that science teacher came over to me, and he put a stack of paper in front of me, and he said, I want you to write, I will not talk in Mr. Danahy's class again, 500 times. And I just thought like, wow, this is really abusive, you know? But I sat there and wrote that 500 times. And guess what? I don't know that I ever talked in this class again, because I think I got it. It's like that repetition thing, you know, the repetition thing. You know, it's kind of like it's the same thing. If you can hear the same thing in each one, if you have the willingness to look at yourself. If you don't want to look at yourself, then you'll still continue on life that everybody else is at fault, and you're just a victim, right? So I also have written here that I will allow myself to be free and let others be free. That was a really big revelation in step 5. It's just like, wow, I can free these people so I can be free. And I have written here, confession is good for the soul. I am no different than you. Yeah, it's like, just that, you know, admitting things, confessing things, and then being willing to take it to the next step to just kind of clean up my past was amazing. And then I learned the difference between helping people and supporting people. And it's just totally different. So I don't need to go around trying to help people that really don't even want my help and be mad that they don't want it, or be mad that they're not listening. And how I can be supportive, which is a much more healthy way to be helpful to people. I also learned that there's a great Marianne Williamson quote that I love, that relationships are the laboratory of the Holy Spirit. And I love, love, love that quote. It's like when you're in a relationship, you know, I think, well, she was talking about intimate relationships in this presentation she was doing, but really any relationships, but just take the challenge of an intimate relationship, a marriage, you know, it's like, it's the laboratory of the Holy Spirit. Like, where else do you get the opportunity to manage a relationship with somebody on that close level and always come out, trying to come out shining, being that person that you want that person to be married to, instead of always trying to change the other person. So that's where we have an opportunity to do a lot of work, you know. And I also found a lot in my 5th step writing that, you know, I compared myself a lot to other people. And I read a quote that I just love: when I compare myself to others, I either find myself lacking, which makes me feel cheated, or I find myself superior, which makes me feel arrogant, leaves me feeling arrogant. So it's kind of like, do I want to feel cheated or arrogant? There's no option C. If I'm comparing myself, I'm either going to come out better, or I'm going to come out superior to you or inferior to you. And both of those are not joyful unless I enjoy being arrogant. It was very painful when I first started reading my 5th step, because it was just like, ooh, it's just yuck. It's just yuck, you know? And I'm just like, now I got to tell her this, and now I got to, you know, of course, when I wrote it, what's really interesting is when you write it, you really feel right. You really feel correct. And you really feel like that you like, wait till she hears this. She'll see what a victim I am. Let's see what she's going to say about this, you know? oh dear Lord, everyone, she could just let me see, help me to see, how did I get the ball rolling? What was I doing to make myself feel better that was hurting people? What was I not accepting? Oh, it was just an opportunity. And then by the time you've just, you less than halfway through your fifth step, by the time you're on to the next one, you kind of chuckling at yourself. You're just like, oh, I can't even believe I wrote this. Like, I look at my whole book now, it's just like, oh, who was that? Who was that? And it was me. That's who it was. It was me. It was all of me. It was part of my story. And it was me coping the best I could with what I had and what I was willing to listen to, and the level of open-mindedness I had. It was just what I had. It was the best I had. When they say, when you know better, you do better, and that everybody's doing the best they can, that helped me see a lot of other people, everyone's just doing the best they can. So when I sat down to that notebook, I was just talking about my life, always doing the best I could. And so, like it says in this program, we don't regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. Thank you, Shalece, for the time. And I don't regret it. I don't want to shut the door on it, because I find it to be very useful. When I pull that book out and share any bit of it, I find it to be very useful. But it started with sitting down and the discomfort of sharing what I wrote, especially, well, at first it felt good, because I was kind of like, I was thinking she was going to say, like, oh yeah, this is an exception. Oh yeah, this is an exception too. And this one, yeah, that's an exception too. And so once I got kind of shot down, and I was trying to swallow something I wasn't really available to do at that moment, but it was the repetition that got me to understand it, swallow it, and say, I want to do something about this. I want to be a better version of myself. I want to do something about this. And that's what 6 through 9 are for. And that's what I have on my experience with step 5. And Shalece, you finish up on yours?
Yes, that was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so for me, it was such a different experience to take each one of the 50 resentments on my list and to kind of pull them apart just one by one. I didn't just, again, the second time around, I didn't just read through it. It wasn't just a drive-by reading, for me. Though with my first 5th step experience, again, I think that's exactly what I needed at the time, and it moved me, it progressed me from where I was. And then the second time around here, doing it in this manner was it continues to be life altering for me. It was actually pretty comical. It was actually hilarious for me, because all of this, everything on my list was so freaking serious. It was so serious. Like, oh my gosh, like the 25 resentments that I had towards my church and all of the members in it. It was tough. It was like, this was true. This was all true. This was all like Lulu said, I didn't know what I didn't know until I knew it, until it was kind of like, oh, well, have you considered this? Or what do you think about, it just so many different ways to look at. I had been looking at everything with backwards and upside down thinking, but that's all I had. I didn't have anything else until it was gifted to me. And I'm so grateful for a sponsor who gifted that the truth, even though it hurts to hear it sometimes. Like it's like, oh, I can't believe I thought that. Or I remember, having different family members on my list and thinking, well, this person doesn't call me enough. And this person calls me too much. And this person, if they'd only do this, or if they'd only stop doing this, then I'd be happy. And the just digging and unraveling everything about the people, realizing that they're just perfect, just the way they are. They actually didn't need to do anything different. I just needed to be able to see them for who they are. And who I thought they were was just not accurate, not even close. It was like, I don't know. It was my whole life. I just kind of feel like I was going through with blindfold on. Like I'm just kind of like, winging my way through it the best I can. And again, my reaction to everything was food. My reaction was food. It's like, oh, they're not doing this or they're doing this. Ah! So I'm going to eat because that'll fix it, because that'll make it feel better. Actually, it doesn't. It just makes everything 10 times worse. And I just never want to go back there. Step 5, like I say, was such an eye-opening experience for me in just discovering that there's a different way to look at life and there's a different way to live it. And I'm still working on that. I'm still working on seeing things clearly. That's why, like, this is a rinse and repeat. It's a rinse and repeat process. I think one of my favorite things to do that really helps solidify, I'm just really grateful for step 12 because I get the opportunity. I mean, it was such a life-changing experience for me to walk through step 5 with my sponsor and see that. And it was just kind of like, when it was done, it was like, oh, it was like, oh man. I mean, I know I had step 10s and I'm going to get to do that again. But then I get to turn around and reach down and show someone else how to find the truth, or how to look at life in a different way. And it's just a really beautiful and wonderful experience, and terrifying all at the same time. Because again, I don't know everything. I don't know everything. I'm not driving the bus. I'm just on it, and I'm just doing the best that I can with what I know. But step 5, again, it's really just about taking the blindfold off and looking at life in a different way. And I can't see it on my own. I can't. It's like Harlan, one of our favorite Harlan podcaster that we put a lot of his podcasts on our blog because he's just such a great speaker. But one of the things he says is that my broken brain can't fix my broken brain, and my broken eyesight can't fix my broken eyesight. I can't see things that I can't see until I see them, and it really helps to have somebody else, point to the truth. So, as part of, as we talked about in step 4, there's the inventory, just general resentments inventory. There are instructions on the blog to do that, take an inventory. And then we have our fear inventory, and we have our sex inventory. And so the fear inventory was really interesting for me too, because the fears that were not in connection with resentments, they were just fears that I had. That was life altering for me too. So some of the fears that I had on my list were fear of heights, fear of large dogs, fear of, I'm just trying to think, fear of death, fear of, trying to think of some of the other things, but taking each one of those and not just only reading through it, but really looking at each one of those fears again was extremely helpful for me. I don't have a fear of large dogs today. have a healthy respect for large dogs, but because of that experience of working through and seeing things from a different angle, I can see where there are certain fears that serve me, like there are fears that keep me safe, and then there are fears that keep me from living. And so kind of differentiating and seeing again with an outside perspective, someone that is looking at it from a different angle can see things that I can't see. That process of just looking at those fears that weren't in connection with resentments was life altering for me as well. And I know that when I have fears that pop up that, I did everything as thoroughly as I possibly could on my fourth step. But there are going to be things that pop up, and that's what step 10 is for. And I can at any moment go back and find more truth about things that I'm struggling with, or things that need to be looked at under a microscope again. So again, that's my experience with step 5. And I just really encourage you. It doesn't matter what step you're at. It doesn't matter where you've been or where you are right now. You're just where you're meant to be. If you have questions, reach out to Lulu or I. We have our email addresses on the blog, and we are very passionate about this process. And so we love to answer questions. Never hesitate to reach out. And then we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions for anyone that's here. Feel free to pop any questions that you have about step 5 in the chat section, and we'll be happy to address those at this time.
Just real quick, Shalece, I was thinking about the 5th step on reading the fear inventory and the sex inventory as well. And even going through that sex inventory, which was me in relationships, me in those relationships that are supposed to be the laboratory of the Holy Spirit. They weren't. I was selfish, self-seeking, dishonest, and afraid. And it was about my ego. It was about, am I good enough? Am I not good enough? You're too good for me. You're not good enough for me. Money, I just missed the mark. That's all right. And so today I have, because I read my sex inventory to my sponsor, and that's when she was really calling me the queen. And it just had to be pointed out to me. And so that is why we create a new sex ideal, the same way I created a food plan. The food plan is created to help me with my food addiction. My sex ideal keeps me focused on what I'm choosing for how I want to be in relationships. And then my fear inventory, like Shalece said, which ones are useful? I'm not going to stop looking both ways before I cross the street, because that would be stupid for me to say I'm afraid of not looking both ways. It's a healthy fear. And then we have the ones that, like she said, that stops you from life. But yeah, it's cool. So, I see a question.
Yes, it's a good question.
You want to take it?
I'll go ahead and read it. Let's see here. Okay. So if your reaction to every upset is to turn to food, how do you redirect that reaction? That is such a beautiful, beautiful question. So at step 1, I put down the food, and I am no longer turning to food in reaction to life. Now all of the steps after step 1 are helping me to know what I need to do to redirect and to not go to the food, or for an alcoholic to not go to alcohol. So redirecting is when I feel those emotions arise, it's looking at them, just like this inventory is where I learn to redirect my thinking, redirect my life towards God. and this process shows me how and what to do with those emotions, with those upsets, because literally when I'm upset, when I'm upset, it's because there's something that's going on inside of me that isn't accurate. I'm not looking at life accurately. So I need to be able to pause and then follow these directions. And so that's what I do now. That's what I do is I work these steps. Lulu, do you want to take that as well?
Yeah, I'll take that. My reaction to every upset is to turn to food. How do you redirect that reaction? Well, this is step 5 work that we're talking about. You know, that when we're starting to unravel our history. But step 1, that's why we all start at step 1. It's about I'm powerless over food. My life is unmanageable. I need to learn that. I need to feel that. I need to find it myself in that. How is my life unmanageable? How am I actually powerless? What does powerless over food looks like? That's a whole study on its own. Actually, it is literally 34% of this book is step 1. Step 12 is 41% of the book, and steps 2 through 11 are 25% of the book. So steps 1 and steps 12 are really, really, really important ones. So once you understand and take step 1, then you move on to 2. Basically, in a nutshell, 1 says, I can't eat healthily. I'm powerless over food. Step 2 is I need power. If I'm powerless, what else do I need? I need power. And then step 3 is just turning your will and your life over to the care of God as you understand God. And that way, I am in a position of a surrender to be open to hearing this stuff. And at this point, I'm not reacting with food. I might want to react with food, but it's more important for me to keep the food down so that I can stay on this journey and be blessed with this recovery. 1 bite and I'd be derailed. I know I would be derailed because I saw my whole past. My whole past just flashes in front of me. I know exactly what that looks like. So basically, you know, I was told, like, when I first got abstinent, at this point, I don't have recovery. I haven't even done 1 step yet. I just put the food down. And I'd be like, well, how am I supposed to keep the food down if I haven't done the steps? And I can't, every time I'm upset, I want to turn to food. Well, what do I do? Well, haven't you dieted before? Haven't you done really good at Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and all those thousands of dollars you spent on it? Well, just do it again. Just be the best dieter you can. Come and be supported so you can see what's possible for you for your future. And every day you'll see keeping down the food and not eating compulsively not only will benefit you as far as your ideal weight that you'd like to be, but also you keep hearing about this stuff, like that you can actually have a new design for living. I just need to just not eat compulsively and I can like learn how to do life. Well, all I know is that I didn't learn much about doing life when I was eating. So I knew I needed to be nice and clean, and no drunk is going to be drinking every day and working on his 5th step. It's just, you just don't do that. It's not, you still kind of block, like actually putting down the food is kind of the first step on unblocking the pipeline between you and God, you and what you need to know about yourself, you and your new design for living. If there's a pipe that goes between you and your new design for living, you got to start unclogging it. So that's what I have for that. Sex inventory. Were you here last week? Oh, last week, if you go to, we have a question, sex inventory. Can you tell me what that looks like, what we're writing down, sharing for that? So last week we talked about the fear inventory, fear in not relation to resentment, just fears that are not related to resentment, because there is a fear piece in the resentment writing. So we have the fear inventory. with the questions that we need to ask ourselves in relation to all the fears that we experience. And then we have a recording on the sex inventory and that's how that's explained in the big book. And then a little PDF with a question thing. You know, you just make your list, like you make a resentment list, you make your list of fears, you make your list of those mind, body, spirit partners, not just the mind, spirit relationships, like the relationships we all have, but then there's that mind, spirit, body relationships, and however that looks. And it's all, and if you have any, if you listen to that, and you have any questions, you know, our contact information is right there on the blog spot. Any other questions? Step 5 is really, it was life-saving for me to have that level of discomfort. You know, when you're a perfectionist and wherever you're not perfect, you don't want anyone to know. Or if you've done things that you just kind of like, you know, I'll never tell anyone that. And then you're just like, you're considering telling somebody if you want recovery, because we need to be fearless and thorough. Another piece of step 5 is when you're done with step 5, I'll probably do we can probably do a whole recording on this, but the very last paragraph in step 5 is about when we're actually finished with it, and how we take an hour in quiet time and contemplate what we've just done. Have we omitted anything? Look at the first 5 steps. Have I taken those first 5 steps fearlessly, thoroughly? And I'm able to lay aside prejudice against myself and others and the program. And it's kind of like a little spot check hour. And we'll do a recording on that, but that's part of it too. And then it's just like, it's like you know, and it was a wonderful hour, actually. I didn't even know if I could sit still for an hour because, you know, without talking, without looking at anyone or listening to anything, you know, we're so like wrapped up in like communication and entertainment and distraction. And it was a wonderful hour. It was a very, very special hour for me. And we'll do a recording on that. But yeah.
Yeah. So just one more thing, thinking about step 5 and just the sifting that it involves is, if I had done my step 4 and then just put it on a shelf, like, oh, I did step 4, I'm good. You know, I would not have that new design for living. Like this piece of it is so crucial, really, really thoroughly going through and, you know, making an accounting of everything that was on that list for me, was just such a life-altering experience. And I get super excited to just invite people to do it, because it sounds really scary, and it sort of it was it was scary, but what comes out on the other side is just beautiful, a beautiful freedom. It was kind of the same way for me in abstinence. I was just really super terrified to try becoming abstinent. I really didn't think I could do it. But I was looking around and there were other people that were doing it. I was like, well, maybe if they're doing it, I could do it. And it's kind of the same thing here with step 5. It's a little bit of a nerve-wracking process to really dive that deep and share that much information with someone that's really close and personal. Like, I don't know if I want to share any of that with anybody, but it was so, I don't know, just super cleansing. And like I say, just needed a good deep cleaning. So, oh yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing. I'm just remembering that, you know, as we were discussing all of my writing and all my fourth step turnarounds, and you know, she'd be just pointing out the obvious, which is, well, look at you. You're like, aren't you quite the gossip? You know, what are you talking about? People, you know, what do you do? Look at how judgmental you are. Look at you, like, judging everybody. And, you know, it feels like insulting. It's like somebody's like character assassinating you. But then she was just like, it's in your handwriting. I'm just going by what you wrote. You know, it's just like, you wrote it. So there it was. It was all about me, written by me. But thank goodness for Bill Wilson, who has these precise directions that so gently tease all this information out of you in a very gentle way. It doesn't feel like you're bashing yourself as you're writing it. In fact, you feel pretty self-righteous as you're writing it, you know? And then when it becomes unraveled, you see your handwriting with a whole different message, a whole message that's kind of been twisted around, and, you know, you see the other side. And yeah, it's really cool. So I always tell even sponsees, you know, it's, you wrote it. I know it sounds like I'm character assassinating you, but I'm just putting back your words, you know, what you wrote. And what we'll do for the rest of the step 5 recordings, I mean, the presentation is typically, we share our personal experience with it, but we can talk about, you know, sponsoring people through it and really break it down on what you would do because I like this website, this blog spot, to not just be a space for people to work the steps, but also sponsoring resource. That's if you want to sponsor this way. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to sponsor. There's all kinds of ways to do the steps. We're just kind of talking about this one. And it's just one way, you know, so the one way to do it. As long as it's following the book, it's right.
You can't go wrong,
right? In my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we had another question. It says, silly question. What do you mean when you say abstinent from food or triggers or question mark? I'm going to say that is not a silly question. I'm going to say that's probably one of the most important questions you will ever ask. That what is abstinence? And we have a whole section on the blog. Step 1 is where we start to cover abstinence. We answer, you know, how we have some different food plans on there that we discuss, or well, actually, anyway, we cover all of that on the blog.
And the getting started too,
And yeah, I was going to say, getting started would be even the best place that you could possibly start, because it's going to give you kind of a base of addiction and some of the different things that people use to numb their pain in the 18 addictive agents. So we have all sorts of information there. And then as you have questions, you can go listen to what is there. And then when you have more questions, or you're like, okay, I understand what abstinence is and I'm ready to get abstinent, then send us a message and get us, you know, we can connect you with others who are ready with a sponsor. We can help you see what get on a food plan that will work for you. And like I say, that is not a silly question. It's probably one of the most important questions you'll ever ask. So I'm glad you asked it.
Yeah, abstinence in food addiction is like sober to an alcoholic. It's being sober. It's being sober with food, and it's about identifying that in a black and white manner, and then actually doing it. Not just doing it if you feel like it and you don't cheat. And just like an alcoholic doesn't say, well, I'll just have one sip today and then I'll be fine, because that one sip usually doesn't work out like that. Yeah, same thing with food. So yeah, so you either find yourself that you're one of us, that you eat alcoholically, because that's what this program is the solution to that. It's about eating alcoholically, eating addictively, and eating against your own permission. Just the same way a drunk is with booze, the same way a drug addict is with drugs. It's like, I want to stop and then I don't. Here I go again. Boom. and you'll find yourself before, when you study step 1, you either learn that you do have this and you are one of us, and then there's a solution. Yeah, that's the beautiful thing. It was good news when I finally could figure out who the heck I was and what my problem was, because I was like, how many more years am I going to do this?
Yeah. It was exhausting.
Yeah, I'm too tired. I'm too tired to be fat. I'm too tired to be eating like this. I'm too tired to be disappointed in myself every night. I'm so tired of, like, if I'm eating, I wish I wasn't. And if I wasn't eating, I wish I was. I was never content. Always discontent with food and weight and up and down, and no more. It's over. Train left the station.
Ancient history.
Ancient history. One day at a time.
We can
One
get
day
right.
at a time, because I haven't been cured. I'm just in remission.
Yep.
I haven't been cured. So.
And getting that piece in is so we talk about step 1 as being like, it's got to be so super rock solid. It's got to be no flaws in that part of recovery. So because we're building something so important with the rest of what we do, I mean, it's all based on that willingness and based on that, on abstinence and just being,
Then you never have to hurt yourself with food again. And every day I don't hurt myself with food is a beautiful day. I don't have to drink. I don't have to smoke cigarettes. It's so good.
Glorious. That's a glorious thing.
I always say I had a vision of my 60s because it was right around the corner. And I was like, I am just going to be an old, fat, wrinkled, drunk, fat lady with a smoker's cough. That's who I was going to be. I could just vision it. I had this vision. And I was just like, oh, no. Oh, you too? Oh, somebody just raised their hand. Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, my God, because I was 55 at the time. I'll be 62 in a couple of weeks. And I was like, I really wanted more for my 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s too, but it's just not the way it worked out. But I did have a chance to wrap up my 60s in a healthier way. And then, my 50s, then into my 60s, an abstinence sober woman that doesn't carry around 110 extra pounds anymore. Because it was too hard to do that. It was too hard. It was so tiring. Don't have to do it anymore. Yay!
Okay, well, that concludes the question and answer portion of this meeting, and we want to thank you all for participating. Lulu and I will be available via email to answer any additional questions that you have regarding the steps or the program of recovery. We posted our emails at 12stepitup.blogspot.com. And again, you can find a lot of other useful information on that site. And we are grateful that you're here with us, and we hope you'll join us again next time.
Yay!
Step it up.
Step it up. Step it up. Step it up.